Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to AC Connect. We haven't seen people in a few months, so we're happy to be back, especially with something that we know everyone wants more information about, is concerned about. So welcome, everyone. We're happy to have you here. It's just me as your facilitator today. Christy wasn't able to make it today, so you just have me, but you've been looking at my face for couple of years now, so it's all fine. So welcome. We'll just start with land acknowledgement, and I'm going to do the land acknowledgement from AECEA's perspective, given where their office is, but we're all coming from different parts of the province. So if you want to sort of, for yourself, do your own land acknowledgement for where you're coming from and kind of situate yourself and ground yourself into this conversation today, that would be awesome. The AECEA office is located on Treaty 6 territory and within the Métis homelands and Métis Nation of Alberta Region 4. And we acknowledge that this land is as the traditional territories of many First Nations, such as the Nehiyaw Cree, the Denisuline, the Nakota Sioux, the Anishinaabe, and the Niitsitapi. And something that I found really useful in thinking about land acknowledgements is some of the work that the Calgary Foundation did. That's local for me because I'm in Calgary. But this statement that I put on the slide about why we do land acknowledgements, I found really helpful. So if you just want to take a half a second to read through that and think about sort of your own land that you're on and where we're at. So as usual in our Connect sessions, just some reminders of sort of why we're here and what we're doing. This space really is about connecting with one another and, you know, asking questions and finding out where everyone's at. And this session is a little more informational than some of our other ones are in terms of we're really specifically asking the experts at the ministry to share with us to help us understand the professional development grant and the release time funding. But we still want to prioritize that sense of connection and that we're all here to kind of share in this experience of early learning and childcare in Alberta. Just a reminder, we will be recording the session. And so it will be up on AECEA's webpage within a few days. So if you want to refer back to the recording, if you want to connect others with the recording, you can certainly do that. You can use the question box to ask questions. We're not going to have time today to use the hand up and the sort of live questions. So just a few specifics for how we're going to go through things tonight. We asked for questions ahead of time so that people could be prepared. And thank you so much. So many people submitted questions and we're really grateful for that. So we're going to try and get through all of those. And so please remember that there's a lot of questions about funding and new funding and all of the financial and system pieces of, you know, childcare in our province. And tonight we're really focusing on that PD and release time grant for this session. That doesn't mean you can't get answers to other questions. They just may not happen tonight. So if there are lots of other questions that come up or questions that you submitted but weren't answered, there'll be information at the end about how to get those answers, and you know, we can follow up with you about sort of where the best place is to go for those answers. But we're going to try and be really targeted this evening. You can use the chat if you want to submit another question tonight, and then after our presenter Natasha goes through her information, we'll have a look at the chat again and try and present any questions that haven't come up. So do use that chat function to ask any questions as they come up, and we'll keep an eye on that. We don't have an update from the AECEA board tonight because we didn't have any board members who were able to attend, but we do check your emails because things are always coming out. And so I will welcome Natasha Weber, who's here with us tonight from the ministry as a professional development grant facilitator. And I'm going to turn the screen over to her and everything so that she can share with us all of her wonderful knowledge about the PD funding and the release time grant. So thanks for being with us, Natasha.
You're welcome. I hope everyone can hear me okay. This is a new platform for me. So I'm just going to introduce myself and let you know a little bit about myself. I am a grant specialist with the Alberta Child Care Grant Funding Program. I'm getting a notification. It says show my screen. See, sorry, I got interrupted there. So if I click on here.
So it's showing your whole screen. You may just have to select which window you want to show.
Okay, I want to go to here. No, I want to go to here. Oh, I knew I was going to have some technical support. It says choose the screen. Okay, so I can go to grant here.
There you go. Now we got it.
You can see that?
Yeah.
The website?
Yeah.
Okay. Woo. Thank you. Okay.
It always happens.
Right. Okay. So I might need some more support in a little bit when I switch screens, but hopefully I've got it now. So yeah, just to finish off, I am a grant specialist with the Alberta Child Care Grant Funding Program. So basically I oversee this department. Previous to this, I was a funding coordinator for the same program. And previous to that, I was the site visit coordinator for the Provincial Child Care Accreditation Program. And I also am overseeing the affordability grant department right now, just covering another grant specialist who's on a leave. So today we're going to just mostly talk about the wage top-up, professional development, and release time grant funding. I'm going to provide an overview of the program and go over the rates, a bit about who's eligible, some of the criteria that's involved with the assessing the PD funding requests that come in, and what types of funding or learning opportunities are approved by the department, just to give you an idea of how the program works. So yeah, so for now, I'm going to just show you, I don't have a PowerPoint, but I'm just pulling up our website. It's the Alberta Child Care Grant Funding Program. So you can see it's laid out quite nicely with different links and pieces of information for you. First off, there is an actual child care grant funding guide, which will outline, basically all of the requirements, who's eligible, who's not eligible, the steps involved in applying and receiving the funding. So I welcome you to go onto the website and download this guide, because it's kind of our go-to manual for even when you call our department, we usually use this as a reference, so you can download it. Also on this website, so right here, as you can see, the Child Care Grant Funding Guide is right here. So you will click on that and download it, and then you should be able to print it. Also on this website is the form that you need to request the professional development funding. So if you're taking any courses, post-secondary coursework, workshops or conferences, and you would like to receive funding, this is the form that you will use. So we're going to go over, we're going to download this form later, and I'll just kind of do a quick demo on how to fill in the form, so you can ask me any questions about that form after. So first off, we're going to just review what this grant is. So this grant is basically for licensed childcare operators in the province of Alberta to apply for wage top-up enhancements and professional development funding and corresponding release time funding. So what is wage top-up? Of course, if you're a certified educator with a level 1, 2, or 3, you are eligible for wage top-up enhancements. That's if your program that you're employed at applies for this grant. So the first step that's involved is the program needs to apply. So I'm just going to kind of click down to this area of the website. So it's just not automatic for you as an educator, just I want to have wage top up. You have to be employed at a licensed childcare program, and your program has to actually formally apply. And that's called the grant application, okay? So here is the grant application form. So if you're an operator and who's licensed, this is where you go to apply for wage top up and professional development funding. Okay, once you submit that form or complete that form, you're going to submit it to the child care funding department, and the email is right on the bottom of the form. Okay, so once your applications, and so here, step 3, it explains to you, you're going to submit the form to the cs.childcarefunding@gov.ab.ca. Okay, it's preferred to email it, not send in the old school way by mailing it in, but you're welcome to do that if you'd like to. And so after you're approved, our department will send you a grant agreement. And again, this is for the operator, the license holder of the licensed childcare program that you work at. Okay, once the grant agreement is, the grant application is approved, the grant agreement will be sent to the operator to sign and return back to our department. And then we will activate the funding for that program. And to receive the wage top-up funding, the program has to submit an online claim. And you might hear the C3P system. That's the online childcare system for the program to submit their monthly claims, okay? And that's where they will enter all their staff that have certification and put down the number of hours that you are eligible, that you do direct childcare to receive wage top-up. So we're going to just go through those rates really quickly. So right here, you can see table 1 shows the certification level 1, 2, or 3. The wage top-up enhancements are right here. So if you're a level 1, you will receive $2.14 for each direct childcare hour that you work at the licensed childcare program. Level 2, it's $4.05. Level 3 is $6.62. Okay, and what this table is showing you is an average employer paid wage as of January 2022. So this is not dictated by Children's Services. This is what we've been able to gather, what the average educator is paid across the province, okay? And then these are the wage top-ups that are set by Children's Services. And so this is now the average wage with the wage top-up across the province. Okay, so we're not legislated to dictate what programs are supposed to pay level 1, 2, or 3, but we do expect that they are paid at least minimum wage, and that is legislated by employment standards, right? So this just gives you an idea of how much educators are paid with the enhancements. Okay, so that gives you an idea of the rates and how wage top-up works. The next piece is the professional development funding. So if you are certified educator and working at a licensed childcare program, you're also eligible for professional development funding and release time grant funding that is part of this professional development funding grant. So again, so this process, so the funding actually has to be formally requested. It is a reimbursement program. So you don't apply for the funding in advance to pay for the course. You have to pay for the course first, or workshop or conference first, and then submit for reimbursement. So this is where you'll see the form. So this is called the professional development funding request form. Okay, so we're going to look at that in a few minutes. And it explains to you how to download it and fill the form in. Okay, so basically the basic eligibility requirements, of course, again, you must be doing providing direct childcare in a licensed childcare program or working as a program supervisor or alternate supervisor as defined by the early learning and childcare regulations, as well as people that are hired in the role as a family childcare consultant, coordinator, or home visitor with a licensed family day home agency. Okay, again, you have to be certified. You have to be a Canadian citizen or official permanent resident of Canada. If you have a work permit or study permit, we may request a copy of that to ensure there's no restrictions that prevent you from working in a childcare setting, and that you're eligible to work. I guess I already said that you're eligible to work in a childcare setting. The other piece is that you have to work at least 29 hours and at least 1 month from the date you spent on the course or workshop, or the date the application was received. So when we first get the funding request form to our department, these are some of the initial screening criteria that we're looking for. So how do we know if you are certified, or how do we know that you're doing direct childcare at a licensed childcare program? We have a system that's called the CCIS, and we will be looking to see if you have a certification. So on the form, there's a certification number that you have to enter onto the form. So we will cross-reference that information in our system to make sure that you're actually certified, okay? We'll also be checking to see if you are employed at a program, a licensed program, and we can check how many hours you have worked, because the program completes online childcare claims for the number of hours that you are doing direct childcare. Okay, so that just gives you an idea of how we do our screening, or the eligibility screening. Okay, so what are the rates for professional development? So it is a per fiscal year. So these rates are up to $1,500 per year for post-secondary coursework, okay? And there's up to $500 per year for workshops and conferences. So this comes to a grand total of $2,000 per fiscal year. The fiscal year, this is very important for everyone to know. The fiscal year runs from April 1st to March 31st of the next year. So if you are taking any coursework this year and the date paid was within this fiscal year, so anytime from April 1st up until March 31st, please submit your funding request form, your PD funding request form, to our department. You don't have to wait until March. You don't wait until March 31st. Get it in as soon as possible, because this program is in place for the whole year, for the whole fiscal year. So we find a lot of educators or programs wait till the end of the fiscal year to submit their funding request form. So we get this huge influx of requests right up until the end of March. And I mean, I'm not saying you can't do that, but it would be preferred if you could submit throughout the year, now that you're aware of how the program works. Because what will happen is if you submit, so let's say you pay for a course January 20th, okay, of 2023, like that's coming up, and you don't submit your course, your form until April 20th, it's not going to be approved because you paid for the course last fiscal year. Because remember, the new fiscal year started on April 1st, so it will be denied. So it's really, really critical to keep in mind, like I know the terms with your post-secondary coursework can get confusing, but we always use the date paid as the piece of information that we're looking at, because the expense and the reimbursement has to be within the same fiscal year. It's a financial responsibility of the ministry to be accountable for the taxpayers' money, and also to, you know, just to keep all our financial records in order. And then of course the funding rates reset at the beginning of every fiscal year. So you have $2,000 this fiscal year, and then starting the new fiscal year, you have another $2,000. So just keep that in mind. So there's also the paid release time grant. This is the most misunderstood piece of the grant funding. So what this is, it's meant to help educators offset the costs of their coursework and the workshops and conferences that they're taking. So that's the PD grant funding, of course, but this now is sort of an incentive to study and to take these courses. So it's kind of like a study bonus. So not only do you get, you know, you're up to $1,500 for your courses at CDI College, you can also get release time, the study grant, to also offset your costs. So it doesn't matter if you took the courses during, you know, your hours of work or on the weekend, or in the evening. It is, you are eligible to request this at the same time that you're requesting your professional development grant. Now, these rates are here. Now, I know our website is not, it needs some updating because it doesn't have the post-secondary course, like what's the maximum per year, but I will tell you right now. So for post-secondary courses, you're eligible to request $800 times 2 courses per fiscal year, okay? You'll see that there's a column for programs to also get release time. So in total, it's $860, but $800 goes to the educator and $60 goes to the program, because this grant, the release time grant, is taxable. So we gave a portion of the release time grant to the program for administrating and dispersing this funding. So the grand total for post-secondary would be $1,720. So that's, remember, it's two courses per fiscal year. So if you do the math, that's what it comes to. And then for workshops and conferences, it's $17.50 per hour, up to 45 hours per year. And again, there's a portion that goes to the program to offset the wage-related expenses for taking the mandatory deductions off this grant, okay? So the form itself, it kind of auto-populates, so you don't have to worry about doing the math. So you'll just have to enter in, let's say you took a conference and it was 8 hours, so you'll put in 8 hours, and then the form will calculate these totals for you, so you don't have to worry about figuring all this piece out. Okay, so that's just kind of a quick overview. I'm just going to show you how you can download the guide. How are we doing for time? I'm looking at, okay, so we're still at 7:22. So yeah, I'm just going to show you. So you click on this link, how to download the funding guide. And so this kind of weird screen pops up, but what you're going to do is just download here. So it says right here, Alberta Childcare Grant Funding Guide for Wage Top-Ups and Professional Development. And the latest version is from last year, September 2021. You download it. And here's the guide, okay? So you're welcome to print it if you want to. You can save it to your computer. But this is, like I said, this is your go-to if you have any questions about, okay, my cook, she's certified. Can she, is she eligible for wage top, or is she eligible for PD funding? And like, you'll see all the details in here, and that's kind of all broke down into different categories. So there's a good table of contents here. So right now, like, I feel like I've gone over an overview. So the reason why this funding's in place is really to do workforce development for the early childhood educators and for the childcare sector. If you recall, this funding used to be tied to accreditation. If anyone's been around for a while, you might have been part of the accreditation process at the program that you're employed with, or maybe you were the accreditation coordinator at your program that you worked at. And so that was a process that involved, many steps, but reviewing your policies and practices and reviewing your observations and your child caregiver interactions, and assessing the quality of those interactions and the programming and all that kind of thing. So that programs no longer exist, but they kept the funding that was attached to the accreditation. So accreditation no longer exists, but this quality funding is in place. So it's intended to recruit educated and certified early childhood educators and retain them in the field, because the more you know, you have the wage shop of enhancements, you have this funding to help you with your growth in your profession, right? To take workshops and conferences in the early learning and childcare field to enhance your knowledge base on child development and programming. And of course, if you're in a leadership role, there's also, you can take, if you're already a level 3, you can take courses on operating your program in business management and human resources and things like that. So many courses also get approved. So it's not just about getting your certification level. There's also funding available for other types of coursework or learning opportunities that related to early learning and ECE practice. Okay, so that's what the funding is intended to do. So I did the wage top up amounts. I'm pretty sure, I feel like I've gone over the basis of this program. So maybe now I will start reviewing some of the questions that I received in advance and just touch base on that. And if you have, after I go through these questions, if you have more, please feel free to send your questions through the chat, is my understanding. Okay. All right. So I don't know if I need to share my screen. So the first question I had, so can an international student working part-time in a daycare, are they available for funding? So I think I did touch on this already. So if you have a work permit or study visa, we would likely request a copy of that study permit just to ensure there's no restrictions. And then we would proceed with our review of your PD funding request form and make sure that you're eligible based on all those things that I was saying earlier. Are you certified? Do you do direct childcare? Are you employed at a licensed childcare program, etc.? So that's hopefully that answers your question number 1. The next question, does the grant include university studies for ECE degree or degree in Bachelor of Arts? Is Athabasca University accepted to study using the grant? How much will be in 2023? So there's multiple questions in that one question. So just to give you an idea, so if you're a level 1 or 2, the priority for this grant is to approve courses that help you achieve higher certification level. Okay, so so a Bachelor of Arts degree in itself, if you review the programs that are approved for certification, which is available in Appendix B, C, and D of the Child Care Certification Guides. We're not going to go right into that today, but those, the Child Care Certification Guide will give you an idea of what programs are eligible for certification. So we do know that the Early Learning and Child Care Certificate, the Early Learning and Child Care Diploma programs at the recognized institutions such as CDI College, Norquest College, let me just see some of these ones. Like I think most people, or Mount Royal, Bow Valley College, like those are the recognized institutions that offer early learning and childcare programs. So any of those courses would get approved as long as you meet the other eligibility criteria. Okay, so but when it comes to other types of degree programs, we would be assessing those on an individual basis and determining if that course is related to early learning and childcare and ECE practice. So for example, introductory to psychology is like 228. There's been many applicants that have got approved for that course. So if you want to like take courses here and there, you know, likely if you meet the other criteria and they are related to early learning and childcare, your PD funding request likely would get approved. So we just don't want people to get confused between what programs are eligible for certification and what courses are approved for PD grant funding, because we're looking at the course equivalency as well. Like, so if you're taking, courses on child development, or families, programming, child guidance, of course, we likely would approve those courses. But just to say a Bachelor of Arts in, I don't know, sociology, we would want to know the specific course, and the PD funding request form helps you, enter all that appropriate information so we know exactly what course it is, and it may get approved if it's related to early learning and childcare. Okay, so hopefully that answers your question. If you're not sure if the program or degree program that you're enrolled in or want to register in would be eligible for certification, please contact the childcare certification program directly. I can give that number to you now, or we can just have you do a search on, do you think I should give that number, Leah? Just give it out now? The childcare certification number, or they can just look it up themselves?
I can put it in the chat. So if you want to
Okay,
give it
yes,
now, I'll write it in the
sure.
chat now.
Okay, it's 1-800-661-9754. That's the number to the certification office if you want to find out if your program would allow you a higher certification level. If you want to know if a specific course would be eligible for PD funding, please contact the childcare funding program or send us an email at cs.childcarefunding@gov.ab.ca. We will answer any of your inquiries about PD funding, like what courses are approved or not approved. They usually come to me or to management or leadership within the department to review the content of those courses, and we will let you know if it would be approved or not. Okay, so if you want to know in advance before you pay for the course, please feel free to contact us. So the next question is, if a workshop's free, do you still get release time grant? We have approved several courses that are free for release time. So it just depends, again, like we will review and assess those courses on a case by case, and then determine if they would be appropriate to approve under the PD grant. And then, of course, we might ask for proof of enrollment because there's no date paid, right? Because it's free. So we will ask for proof of enrollment or a certificate of completion to ensure that you actually participated in this learning opportunity. Usually the free workshops that are approved, they are live attendance only. We do not approve recorded sessions or recordings. That does not meet the criteria for this PD grant. Okay. Also, to add to that, typically courses that are workshops that are, I guess it'd be courses that are on demand, like sort of self-guided, like module-based training where you're just learning at your own pace. If there's no facilitator or no instructor who facilitates that course, they likely would not be approved for PD grant funding because we want to keep that interactive component between the learner and the facilitator. And I know with the pandemic, a lot of courses have moved to online and into this sort of learn on your own, own time, which we have approved some of those, but it's usually because there's a facilitator or instructor that is available as needed, and the website and the course information has to basically, name the person, what their availability is. So just keep that in mind when you're choosing your PD or your learning opportunities. Self-demand recordings, those are not approved, okay? So the next question is, Why isn't flight course included in the PD grant? This has been, under review by the ministry, but I think initially the reason why it was not covered is because flight is already a sponsored or funded program by Children's Services already. It is offered as free, but you have to remember it is sponsored by the ministry already. So release time was not approved under the professional development grant funding, but it is under review. So just keep posted, keep checking the website for any announcements relating to this, because I know it's been under review for the last, well, almost a year, I guess it's been since release time grant came into play. Okay, the next question. Do the free courses have to be associated with ARC or AC to be considered a release time grant? No, as I was saying, there's many courses that we have approved for release time grant that are free. So if you're not sure if it would be approved, please contact the Child Care Funding Department or send us an email with the name of the provider, and the direct website link to the workshop or course is required for the review and approval of that course for release time. Okay, the next question. Okay, is there or can there be a list created for us to see the available courses or workshops rather than waiting to see if something's approved? Is it better to call if we want an immediate response regarding something that we are questioning? So unfortunately, there is not a list that's available for public use. The main reason for this is that the list is continuously amended and revised probably several times a day by all the funding coordinators that work in the department. Courses are added, removed, courses are denied, approved, courses no longer exist. Like the list is just ever changing and continuously being amended, and there's no way to have a list that would be current and up to date in the moment at any given time. But like I said, hopefully some of this information that I'm sharing with you today helps you understand about some of the courses that may not get approved or what types would be approved, okay? If you have a course you want to know about and there's a deadline date, for payment, or the session's coming up right away, please give us a call. That's probably the fastest way, because we can check our list right in the moment to see if it's already on there. If it's not, then we'll probably encourage you to send an email with the provider name or organization name and the website, direct website link. And then it will get forwarded, like I said, to management for review. Put urgent if it's like coming up, and usually the coordinators will alert me to review it right away because the deadline date's coming up. So that's the best advice that I can give you. I'd say the turnaround is not too bad, but hopefully somebody won't call me a liar about that, but I'd say about 5 to 10 business days is typically the turnaround. So if you're wanting to register in a course, that's coming up in a couple of months, hopefully that's, that gives you plenty of time to make your decision on a course. Okay, the next question. I'm a Bachelor of Secondary Education graduate back home in Philippines. I have a level 1 childcare educator right now. I assess by Alberta Childcare Educators Office through my college degree application. Since I'm a busy mom and no time to go to school, even taking English test to do my level, my question is, do you have any program to level up our position as a childcare educator? So I'm not sure if I 100% fully understand this question, but my best advice is to, as I was saying earlier, like if you want to know if your credentials back home or any of your education that you've taken would certify you at a level 1, 2, or 3, you need to contact the Child Care Certification Department. They are the ones that will assess your credentials and determine what level you are. There's no course that can kind of, expedite this process. This is up to the Child Care Certification Department to determine your credentials. If you want to just kind of have a look at to see if your credentials for something that you've taken here in Alberta, again, you can look at the Appendix B. Again, that's of the Child Care Certification Guide. It tells you what types of programs or degree programs will allow you certification level 1, 2, or 3, okay? And they'll determine your equivalencies, again, based on your coursework that you've taken. Okay, in what ways? Okay, so this next question is more, these are about brain story. So those are for AECEA, so I know they're going to address those questions. So I'm not going to answer that question about brain story. There's a question here about our main funding is federal, and if we apply for wage top-up through the province, will the province provide extra dollars to pay for employers? Receiver General. Can we use the professional development funding to pay the employer's portion? Again, this question was not completely clear, but basically you cannot use PD funding to cover employer costs for your portions of the mandatory deductions for wage top-up to your employees. PD funding and wage top-up are two different fundings sources, and that is not the intention of PD funding to help you cover your employer costs for wage top-up. So hopefully that answers your question. Earlier, like I said, there is release time grant funding. When a program or an educator gets approved for that, there is a program portion that will help offset your costs for administering that that grant and taking off the deductions. So hopefully that helps offset the costs. Next question. Why is this grant not open to educators who have an existing ECE level, be working or not working, would like to upgrade and go back to school to achieve a degree in education? So as I said earlier, you must be certified and you must be employed at a licensed childcare program to be eligible for the PD grant. To offer the grant to all certified educators in the province that aren't employed at a licensed childcare program sort of defeats the purpose of this grant. As I said earlier, the grant is for workforce development for the early childhood education sector and to retain and recruit educated and professional staff and keep them in the field. So yeah, but there is funding available for you to take your Bachelor of Education, the PD grant funding. So if you're still working in a minimum 29 hours and working at a licensed program, you can still access the grant to get your Bachelor of Education degree. So you still can access that grant. You just have to still be working, right? Not working in the field is, unfortunately, you wouldn't be approved if you're not working. Okay, these questions don't apply. Skipping over, how am I doing for time? Okay, can agencies be approved for a release time grant if they offer their own PD for their educators? For example, we are putting a childcare guidance PD session ourselves. So how this would work, so you're still eligible to, many programs do a PD day at their center. And so usually how it works is the program will probably, pay for, the organization to put on the child guidance workshop or training. And then they will take that invoice and divide it by all the participants, so all their staff that attended the workshops, and divide it by, let's say they have 10 people that attended, and they must submit an individual PD funding request form for each educator. Unfortunately, we don't have a group form to make it simplify the process, because unfortunately we need to assess each applicant individually, right? So you have to submit the 10 forms. They can each get the release time grant. So let's say the workshop, the PD day was, 8 hours, so they can all get release time for their attendance at the PD day at the center. So hopefully that helps answer that question. And then of course, once the educator gets approved and the funding gets, released to the program, then the program would obviously, they would keep the funding like for the PD costs for the organization that put on the PD training for the child guidance course, but they would have to ensure that the release time grant goes to all the staff that attended. So if you have more questions about that process, please feel free to contact the Child Care Funding Program and we'll answer those questions. So I don't have any new grants. The next question was about, what's coming up. Is there any new grants coming up? Or today's session is just about existing grants, and that is correct. Today is just about the grants that are currently in place, and I cannot speak to any future grants that might be coming down the pipe, but just stay tuned for any announcements by the ministry as they continue. There was a few questions about wage top-up. When are those, when might the wage top-up enhancements be increased? Because they have been the same for many, many years. I do know that it's under review by the ministry, and to just keep, stay tuned for announcements on any increments in wage top-up. Okay, I'm feeling like I covered that enough. And now I just want to go over the PD funding form. But before I do that, is there any quick questions about the wage top up and professional development and release time grant funding? Hopefully I covered enough.
I think a lot of the answers have been covered from the questions we've gotten in the chat.
Okay.
There's a couple, I'm hoping are easy answers. We had a couple questions about first aid. Is it covered under either PD or release time funding?
First aid is not covered because that is requirement of licensing. So first aid training is not, same with food handling courses and language equivalencies, ESL equivalency courses. Those are not covered by the PD grant.
We had a few questions about like level 3s taking more training, but you've talked about that. You said there's lots of courses approved, there's things in business and all of that. So I just want to kind of reiterate that. And if you have anything you want to reiterate, because we did have several just saying, I'm already a level 3, what can I do? But there's lots of options, right?
Yeah, there's like, I'll just give you an example of a few here. Bookkeeping, administrative assistant, administration professional certificate, accounting applications, human resources certificates. That gives you an idea of like anything related to, your role as a program supervisor or a business operator, right? If you're a level 3, likely they would get approved. Again, I have to always go back to the fact if you meet the other criteria, eligibility to be approved, okay?
We also had a couple questions about taxable. Is that in the funding guide? Can they find that directly in the funding guide in terms of what's a taxable piece and what's a not taxable piece? Or
yeah, well, I can just say so professional development funding. So the up to $1,500 that I was talking about, that is a reimbursement program. So if you paid, yeah, like. And I also probably should have said, like, we only reimburse the tuition costs, so not the other fees associated with the institution, like registration fees or student union fees. We only reimburse the tuition costs, okay? But you would that's a direct reimbursement. Whereas release time grant, so for that study bonus that I was talking about, that is taxable, okay? So that's kind of the main difference. And of course, wage top-up enhancements, that's part of your wage. It has to be shown on a different line on your pay stub. And that is also, because that is income, it must be taxed. So there's mandatory. So there is in that funding guide that does talk about what mandatory deductions are. Like, of course, unemployment insurance, CPP, all that kind of stuff. But there's a link if you want to know more about that for CRA.
Yeah.
Canada Revenue can help you with that if you're not sure how to do that piece. Yeah.
Okay. There's one more that I want to put out there because we got another kind of set of questions about it. In regards to what proof do people have to submit, either that they took the course or about what kind of course it is. So what kinds of documentation are you looking for when people are submitting for the courses?
Yeah, so we don't require typically copies of receipts or copies of anything really. It's almost like an honor system. However, there might be some discrepancies, or we might not be clear on how much you paid for a course. So it's always good to you must keep track of your receipts, like proof of payment, as we might follow up and say, we received your PD funding request form and we require a receipt. Is this application's not clear? Or we might ask for proof of enrollment, like for your schedule for your fall term, or or certificate of completion, or proof of enrollment for, especially if it's a free workshop or something. So, but it's not required on, we just need the PD funding request form initially. If you want to submit your receipts, you're more than welcome to do that. We love them because it helps us, makes the assessment go so much quicker. Yeah. But we know it's more for you to scan and attach and do all that piece. But it is a requirement of a recipient of this grant. So usually it's the director or the operator who's in, or they might have an admin person who's in charge of submitting all the forms on behalf of the staff, but they need to keep, files on all the, receipts and all that kind of thing, especially if you're having a PD day at your program, because you could get audited and these documents will be requested. So it's very important to, while it might seem, oh, I can just request this funding and no one's going to check. No, we will check, and you might get audited. So, or you might be asked to submit those receipts.
Okay, yeah, those were kind of some of the groups of questions. Of course, we'd have lots of questions about, is this approved and when will that be approved? But those are best sort of dealt with directly through your office. We can't go through a list of.
Yeah, it's amazing how time flies here. Yeah. I wanted to do a demo of the form. So if there's no other questions, I'll just move on.
No, go ahead. I think.
Okay.
Yeah, we can address some of those later. We got kind of a chunks of questions out of the way there, so that's great.
Okay, great. Okay, so here is the form. So again, I don't know, can you guys see my screen now again? Great.
Yes, we can.
Thank you. So right here, so this is the form that you must complete and submit to get your PD funding, okay? Typically, like I said, it's the program should submit this on behalf of their staff. It's not to say that you can't fill it in yourself, but please communicate with your director, with your manager of the program that you are doing this form, because the funding goes to the program, not to you directly. So if you're employed at ABC, daycare, you must talk to your director, tell them that you're submitting this form, or work together to submit it. That's preferred, is for them to do it, because then they know they submitted it on this day. They can CC you on the email. That way the date it was submitted. You guys can work together to complete it, make sure all the information's correct. And then once it gets approved, the funding goes to the program after they do their next online childcare claim, okay? So it's not immediate. There's kind of some timing on how the process works. But the funding will go to the program, and they will see that this educator has been approved. We'll send out a letter to the program, so the person that's resubmitted the form, the letter goes to that person, okay? Unfortunately, it might not go to you if it was the program director, but at least they know, oh, you were approved. They're required to give you a copy of that approval letter, you know, so you know what you were approved for, or if it wasn't approved, and a reason will be provided to explain to you why it was not. So I'm just going to show you the form now. So you're going to click on this form. Again, it's going to say, do you want to open or save it? I'm going to just open it, but I'd recommend that you save it. Do a save as to your computer. I'm just going to open it for now. Oh, so now it moved over here. See if I move it over here, will it show up? I moved it to that screen again.
You may have to go back to the choosing which screen because it's not, we're
Okay,
still seeing
sorry.
the browser screen.
Sorry.
That's okay.
See. Is this it? Oh,
There
is
we
it
go.
showing now? Yes?
Yep.
Okay, great. So this is what the form looks like, okay? So we're gonna just say so here you have to fill in all the fields, okay? So I'm a licensed childcare program, facility-based program. We're gonna just do 1, 2, 3. Program ID, you need to know this number because, so if you don't know, that means you should probably be talking to your director of the program, and that's why it's helpful to work together to fill this form in. So usually program ID 8001-976 is usually 8 digits. So you're going to put your name. I don't know if I need to fill this in, but put your first name, last name, your certification level. You see there's a little drop down. If you're not certified, guess what? You're probably not going to get approved, but there is an option there. So let's say you're level 1. They're going to want to know what's your certificate number. If you don't know, you can call our department because we can help look you up in our system, or you can call the child care certification program as well, and they can look you up and give that. Here they want to know what status you are, so here's your options. So you're Canadian citizen, permanent resident, your temp resident with the study/work permit, visitor visa, refugee. So these, typically if you're a Canadian citizen, more than likely you're going to get approved. If you're a temporary resident, as I said earlier, you're going to probably want to just attach a copy of your study work permit right off the hop, just so we don't have to follow up with you. Okay, and then they want to know where are you working primarily? So here there's some options. Are you in a daycare, out of school care room, preschool, family day home agency, you're a consultant, or you're an educator, you're an ECE that runs a day home. So, and then there's other, okay? So those are your options. So here, let's just pick, we'll just pick the first one. Okay, here. So for professional development release time funding is available to educators that are 1, 2, 3, as I said earlier. Of course, it gives you the option to download the guide. So here's their categories. So you're going to want to tick off what it is they're requesting. So if it's, I'm going to do post-secondary because this is where you'll see the form right now doesn't have any other fields, right? But as soon as you click this, all this stuff appears for you. So it's a post-secondary. So what's the name of the college? Well, let's say we go to CDI. Whoops, CDI. The educational program type. Well, I'm taking a certificate and I'm taking the ELCC program. So those are the basic requirements. We must put this down, okay? And here you're going to want to put the course number. So every course that you take at any post-secondary institution has a course number. So whether it's Psych 228 or Child Development, 101 or whatever. So make sure you put this down. So I'm going to just say, I can't even think of a course number right now, but let's say it's 1011. The name of the course is Child Guidance. Okay, these are required fields. If these are left blank, we are going to call you or we're going to email you or try to reach you. or probably contact your director where you work to say, we got this form, we're missing information, it will get held or it will get denied if nobody gets back to us, okay? So you have to fill in. So what the programming that you're taking, the course number, the course name. The next required field is the date you paid. Remember I said the date paid is very important in our assessment because the date paid must be within the fiscal year of submission. So I paid for this course 2022, September 19th. I just paid for it. Amount paid. Oh, it didn't like my format. Oh, I guess it did it for me. Amount paid. So let's say it was $540. So textbooks are also, the required textbook for this course can be also approved, okay? Textbooks in themselves cannot be just submitted. Like you can't just say, oh, I bought all these books and I want to be reimbursed. We will approve required textbooks for the course. So let's say it's called Children Guidance. Sorry, it's the end of the day and I'm not very creative right now. So date paid, we're gonna do the same as above. Amount paid. Oh, I didn't like my thing again. Amount paid, let's say it was $100. Okay, so at the same time, you can request your release time grant. Say yes. Okay, did you see how that just auto-populated? It's a post-secondary course. And remember I said earlier, the rates for post-secondary is $860. So it says, shows you here, your portion's $800 and the program portion is $60. You didn't have to think about it. You didn't have to do the math. And then that way, and then let's say you were taking 4 other courses. Now you got to remember to go add. Okay. Oh, it doesn't like my dates. Okay. Anyway, oh yeah, let me do it again. So now you see it added that whole section again. So then you just repeat the same thing. But remember, you can only request release time for 2 courses, post-secondary courses per fiscal year. So if we would change this to workshop, let me just delete all this. It will show you on just a different screen. So let's say we remove that and did workshop. So now you'll see a whole different sort of screen. You're going to put down the organization. So let's say it was, I don't know, University of Alberta. Or no, maybe it's ARC. How about that one? It's easier. Name of workshop. Can't think of one right now. Anyway, you put the name of the workshop, put the date of the workshop here, right? The date paid, the amount paid. You're going to say release time, yes. Okay, and they're going to want to know, so how do they know how much to pay you for release time? So this is where it comes down to hours. So let's say the workshop was 4 hours. Okay, as soon as you click in the next box, it figured out your release time grant is $75.32 in total, but $70 is your portion and $5.32 is the program portion. So then once you're done, so if you save this to computer, I always recommend do a file, save as, fill the form in, and then you can email it. You'll see at the bottom of the form, it asks you to kind of read this declaration. Okay, this is really important. So don't ignore this stuff because it's basically ensuring that you understand what this process is. Okay, like I said, it's really good to work with your program or your director to submit this form because really they're the ones that should be doing this for you and submitting it on your behalf because they're the ones that are receiving the funding for you and will cut you the check for it. So here you'll see By checking this box, I confirm that I'm authorized to request PD development or release time grant funding on behalf of the child care program. I confirm that I have read and fully understood all aspects of the PD release time grant funding as stated in the Alberta Child Care Grant Funding Guide and agree. So you click that off, then you put in the name, first and last name of the person filling the form and submitting it, your contact phone number and the email. Like I said, once this gets assessed and approved, we will send you or whoever filled the form in an approval letter through email to this email address, okay? So here it tells you how to submit the form. So you use this email. You can mail it in if you like to. And then this is just our area where we fill in. So you can see some of our screening criteria. Is the program eligible? Well, do they have a grant agreement in place? If they don't, then this form cannot be approved. So remember I said the program has to apply formally to receive this grant, okay? And then we're gonna look to see if you're certified, okay? Are you approved for funding because the course is an approved course or it's not? This is just, yeah, just kind of a few elements of the form and how we do our assessment. I know that was really rushed, but I see we're over time. Do you guys have any questions about this form? Was there anything that came through, Leah?
I mean, there's some details about, you know, if I submitted it already, should I submit it again, things like that.
The answer is no.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I figured probably no. Just wait till you get an answer and they'll tell you what they need.
Yeah, like I would recommend following up, like if it's been like I know our processing times are probably at about six weeks. They may get up to 8 weeks, especially at the end of the fiscal year, because the volume, like I said, can get quite immense. And you know, we had 1,000, just to give you an idea, 1,000 PD funding requests within the month of March alone, compared to the whole entire year. That was more than the whole entire year. So, you know, I encourage you to submit these as you pay for courses or workshops or conferences. If you're not sure if the course or workshop you want to take is approved, like I said, contact us, send an email to us. We will get back to you because it is a reimbursement program. And I know some of these courses do cost quite a bit, and you want to ensure to a certain degree that you're going to get approval, right, for the grant. But just keep in mind that there's still the assessment piece involved with every application. We are cross-checking all these, you know, elements of our program and the policies. So, you know, you have to be certified, you have to be working at a licensed program, you have to do direct childcare. You know, you have to provide a work permit or study permit, etc. So it may not get approved, so don't be surprised if you don't meet that basic eligibility. Is there anything else?
I mean, I think that basically covers it. There's obviously lots of questions, but we're just going to encourage people to phone and email and ask those really specific questions. Refer to the funding guide because there's lots of sort of
lots of
first
information
place to
in
go
there.
answers in there. And then if there's specific questions about, you know, different courses or managing the applications and things like that. There was one question that I just want to put out there, and maybe you don't have an answer, but in terms of the program's obligation to pay the staff, the timing of that, and what staff members should do if they don't receive that payment from the program. Is there a quick answer or kind of place that they can go for that?
Yeah, I mean, this does come up every once in a while. You know, unfortunately, you know, Children's Services isn't meant to be a mediator between staff and employers. But if you're just curious, you know, and you just want to know the status of your application, feel free to contact us. We can check our, like I said, we have a system where we track all this information, and we can check to see if your application was assessed or approved or not if you have no idea. And it's been, like I said, just keep in mind the processing times are, you know,
Months.
yeah, 4 to 6 weeks. But if you're not sure if it was submitted, you can call us. We can search our emails, or you know it was approved because you got the approval letter and you still haven't received the funding. Like we can do a cross check in our system too to provide payment reference numbers, like to confirm it was paid, or you know what, it's still pending. So we can provide some of that information to you if you want to follow up on the status of your application. But if it's been paid and the employer is refusing to pay you for whatever reason, or you resigned and you moved on to another program, or you're no longer employed in the field, we can support you on that process. Like I said, we can follow up with the program to make sure they know the date that the PD funding was approved, a payment reference, and encourage them to follow through because it is their responsibility. They signed the grant agreement. Then they might be in breach of their agreement if they're not paying their staff, receive the funding and not paying their staff. Hopefully that's not happening, but it could be just a miscommunication or misunderstanding, or if you left, we can request them to return the money using a program adjustment form, and then we can have you resubmit the the PD funding request, and we can pay you at your new program where you work now, so you can still get the money. So if they don't want to deal with you for whatever reason, we can track the money down and have them submit it using an adjustment form. Hopefully that
Yes,
helps.
that's great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Natasha. We really appreciate your time and
Yes.
all of the details. This is a complex system that
It is, I know, and I was thinking there's probably other things I should have touched on, but like I was just trying to go through things quickly and give a good broad overview. So, but like I said, please feel free to contact our department directly. We'd be happy to answer your questions. And yeah, if anything else trickles in, Leah, from the participants from tonight, I'd be happy to provide some more clarity or answers to some of those questions.
Well, thank you. We do keep a copy of the questions, so we'll review them, and then if there's any kind of big chunks that we feel got missed.
I try. I might have missed. Yeah, like I was trying to go quickly, so hopefully everything got touched on. But if not, let me know.
Okay, well, thank you so much. And thank you to all of our participants. I'll just comment really quickly because we don't have a lot of time about the Brain Story certification. So do go on to AECEA's website and have a look. As many details as we have are there. So reimbursement, AECEA will be reimbursing people who've taken the Brain Story, and you can go to the link, and the release time funding will apply as well to the theory to practice sessions. So that information will come from AECEA. So keep checking the website for that information. And thank you so much, everyone, for your time this evening and your attention, and have an excellent night. And thank you, Natasha.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Have a good night. Okay, bye-bye.